Welcome to Steve's Cottage with Steve Horner. Steve Horner, a former radio talk show host, helps spotlight the source of today's social chaos while offering practical solutions to the problems negatively affecting you and your family. And now, here's Steve.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Steve's Cottage. If the cottage is rocking, then don't bother knocking. Just come on in because you're the kind of guy that we want. I'm Steve Horner. I'm your host. Got a heck of a great show for you today. It's called The Devil Within. Say, I was talking to a desk man at the office of Representative Nancy Mace, legislator for South Carolina. She's a rhino, a Republican in name only, and I was talking to Robert. And he said, what's the name of your website? And I said, SteveHornerBooks.com. So he looks at me, he goes, that's funny. He goes, then you get this consequences. I said, it's consequences. Well, what does that mean? I said, it's the fallout from the activities and policies of cunts. Well, he laughs again, and then he says, what does cunts stand for? I said, that's an acronym. Can't understand normal thinking. C period, U period, N period, T period. Can't understand normal thinking. I said, men have our exclamation marks, Robert. Put it to work. But women have their periods. And so he laughed at that. And he said, well, the cunt just sounds a little harsh. Why didn't you call it bitch? I said, well, number one, it's not just for women, okay? It's for people who can't understand normal thinking. And it just so happens that more women than men fall into that category. He says, yeah, but cunt is so harsh. Why don't you just call it bitch? I said, bitch is so back alley, old-time bourgeois. Cunt has impact, and I own it. Well, he couldn't stop laughing at that one, and then he hung up on me. Well, folks, during this show, so now you know what the cunt is at SteveHornerBooks.com, so you'll understand the nature of the titles. And I'm not preaching hate. I'm preaching what? I'm preaching awareness. Wake up! And you won't hear that anywhere else on podcasts, radio, streaming, television, politicians, newspapers. What you'll hear there is, we're looking out for you, but not me. I'm telling you where to look for the landmines. And if you ignore my advice and you go ahead and you step on a landmine or one of your family members does, well, then I say la vie. Or tough shit bozo, because I've warned you. Now, if you were drowning, I'd be the first to jump in and save you. I know that about myself. I've done that. I know that about myself. I would save your life if I needed to. And that's because I love you as a fellow human being, as a fellow child of God, but I am not your babysitter. What's that on my head? It's my Yasser Arafat headdress. Remember Yasser Arafat? He was the chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization from the late 60s into the 80s. That's the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO. It was purported that he was representing all Palestinians. And as a matter of fact, at that time, he probably was. The Jewish press labeled him as a terrorist. I always had him nailed as a rebel. And this was the colors of his headdress with the pattern. And I saw that I had an old shirt like this, and I said, well, to show my solidarity with the Palestinians, and not with terrorism, but with the Palestinian strife, I'm going to wear this today and remind you of good old Yasser Arafat. A lot of people hated him. Palestinians loved him. So I'm showing the Palestinians my solidarity there, and you know why? Because, well, I say after 77 frickin' years of push in that desert, humans can only take so much push before they break. Don't you get it? That paternalistic Palestinian history over there. the culture. And I say paternalistic versus maternalistic. Paternalistic, as in Father's Day, happy Father's Day, buddies. They don't want Western-style feminism. They don't want the Karl Marx socialism from the Jews. It hasn't worked for us. It won't work for them. And now, you see, when it's push, push, push on the other side, good old President Netanyahu, you see, in Israel, well, his people are jumping off the ship like rats fleeing a sinking ship. He's showing the world his arrogance. I'm not going to stop until I kill them all. Well, that's what the world is thinking. And a lot of people are starting to pull out some support. But it's that same arrogance and vindictiveness that caused the Holocaust. This is not race, ladies and gentlemen. This is about behavior. Karl Marx socialistic liberalism and arrogance. And Netanyahu is bound and determined to keep fighting, and the U.S. to keep supplying him with weapons and financial support. And that's why the Middle East hates America as much as it hates Israel. So let's cut the strings, huh? Let's cut bait. And then ask the Jews. Let's ask Netanyahu to stop the bad behavior, the arrogance, and the vindictiveness, and start making friends with the Palestinians who were asked to move over and make room for the Jews who couldn't find a home anywhere in the world because of their Karl Marx-style liberalism. And that's why so many people don't like the Jews. The Jews will tell you, well, it's race. It's race. They won't explain it. I say it's bad behavior. Once again, I tried asking some of the higher-up Jew policy makers, like this Elliot Malin. He's a chairperson for the Nevada Governor's Advisory Council on Education relating to the Holocaust. They wouldn't take my call, so I left a message. Why do so many people hate you? Why is there so much anti-Semitism? What's going on? I said, here's an example. When the Irish came over to the United States because of the so-called potato famine, a lot of people in America, which was mostly Protestant, had really skepticism and hate against the Irish because they felt that the Irish, who were mostly Catholic, were going to allow the Pope in Rome to dictate their agendas. But that was so far from truth. That was another paranoia type of thing. And finally, the immigrants, the Irish, of which Jack Kennedy was a member, he said, no, the Pope does not run my life. Okay? I will be guided by United States laws. So that's why a lot of Irish immigrants were downcast, you see. So I'm asking why the Jews were so downcast. What is it? Bad breath? They won't give me an answer because they know it's Karl Marx liberalism, you see. So one young, fancy, cutesy little gal called me, left a message. I couldn't understand her name. She didn't leave a message. She didn't leave a number for me to call. I called the two numbers that I had with Elliot Malin to say that this cutesy little chick called me and left a stupid message, no follow-up. And I suppose just to cleanse their conscience, huh? So I called and so I left a message with the Elliot Malin people say that, well, you cleanse your conscience. You had this chick called me and I couldn't get back to her. And so that's what the deal is there. So you give it a try. Call somebody at a temple or somebody and say, why do so many people not like Jews? What's the anti-Semitism going on? So what will eventually happen in the Middle East regarding the issue with Jews? Well, all I'm saying, and I've said this from the beginning, that humans will only be pushed long enough and hard enough before they fight back and retaliate, as did the likes of Adolf Hitler. Now, Hitler wasn't the devil, as Jewish history often portrays. After all, American newspapers also preached anti-Semitism in the 1920s and the 30s. They, too, didn't like Jew liberalism. They didn't want it in politics, and with the McCarthy era, they showed the world they did not want the Jew influence in Hollywood. Charles Manson wasn't the devil. Putin isn't the devil. Terrorists are not the devils. A domestic abuser is not the devil. A mass shooter isn't the devil. The common denominator is that they're all pissed off. And through their drugs and their anger and or their disconnection with God, they end up taking drastic measures, believing that their cause justifies the means to get there. They have allowed the devil within to be heard. They have been deceived by the devil. You look like an angel. You walk like an angel. You talk like an angel. But I got wise. You're the devil in disguise. Oh, yes, you are. Devil in disguise. Mm-hmm. You fooled me with your kisses. You cheated and you schemed. Heaven knows how you lied to me. You're not the way that you seem. You look like an angel. You walk like an angel. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Deception, deception, deception. Good old Elvis Presley. And that's what we have in today's world. Devils disguised as angels. We have drugs. We have the Jew press. We have the feminist social services industry. All of it resulting in chaos. And at the top of the heap, probably single parenting. No dads at home. Where's the nuclear family? There's no teaching of discipline, adherence to rules, no responsibility. No discipline at school, dropouts. No attendance to church, no spirituality taught at home. That's all because of no dads at home. And the feminists run, I'd say cunt run, C-U-N-T, because actually mostly are women. I mean, you go into any of these government offices, it's all spearheaded by women, okay? So, and then you have the high crime. That's the chaos. And it's not going to get any better because look at how you're shivering in your boots because I'm talking about cunt and I'm talking about the feelings I have toward women and pussy-whipped beta backboned men, you see. So that gets you a little queasy. And that's why the devil has the upper hand here. It's a clever orchestration of culture bust. It's through our, it's through our apathy. Good men doing nothing. Nothing but a lot of angry words. Oh yeah, Huck, I can't stand that crime. What's going on out there? What's going on out there? But they never dig. They don't make the phone calls. It's all chatter. It's no action. J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI director from the inception of the Federal Bureau of Investigation in 1924, he was its director, all the way until 1972, when he passed away at age 77. He said this about apathy. He said and of course he served during the 20s and 30s, busting or organized crime, which continues today. He said, on every street, wherever you find gangsterism, you find American indifference. Wake the hell up. Make the calls. I know it might cost you. It might cost you your wife. Could cost you your life. But liberty never has come easy, and even if you make your phone calls and say that you have a different point of view, that's big, because mostly they're listening to the Democrats, because the Jews run the newspapers and slant the news to how they feel the underdog deserves it. And that's Karl Marx's style of socialism. And folks, let's look at it. Women have no business running our families or our country. They're sentimentalists. Oh, you poor thing, you deserve favors. Versus us men are pragmatists. Cause and effect. If you do this, this is likely to be the outcome. And you'll see that I'm not the first to say this. It's written in the Bible in about 12 different places about the differences between men and women. So I'm not the first with this. I'm not the misogynist. Remember, I am making you aware of the problems, okay? I'm preaching awareness on this program. And so the Bible verse that I most often quote here is 1 Timothy chapter 2, 9-12. Check it out. 1 Timothy, there's 2 books of Timothy. This is the second book, first book rather. Chapter 2, verses 9-12. It'll say, women have no business holding sway over men. I know you got to hire them. The law says you got to hire them, but you don't have to vote for them. Okay. And there's a lot of real good, even-tempered, well-educated, good-looking women out there waiting for your hand, because they understand exactly what I'm saying. They're smart enough to know the root cause of the problem. And that is that too many women like Nancy Mace, the rhino in South Carolina, are getting elected to office. She wants to open the doors again on abortion and on the border. And, she wears pink. The color of death. Well, so anyhow, liberal Jews running the news industry, they have no business telling us what to think about our neighbors or how to conduct family affairs or who to vote for and for what reasons, how to be happy, what makes you sad or depressed. The Jew media has the American public on strings like a country of puppets. And you don't seem to care, most of you, as you stand on the edge of the abyss at midnight, wearing your blindfolds. Absolutely astounding, the apathy and the indifference out there. Wake up to what G.I. Joe says, knowing is half the battle. Now you know the battle. Now you know the problem, okay? Knowing is half the battle. Now you know, okay? It is apathy, indifference, and the Jew press that always garners up, always cozies up to the poor me, the sympathetic. That's why I say the Jew always tears away at America's underbelly, plays the sympathy role. I guess that's what sells movies. Doesn't sell newspapers anymore because a lot of people are getting hip to this. I give credit to Rush Limbaugh a lot for opening up the doors to understanding who's running the feminist-run social services industry. And, of course, numero uno, Donald Trump. Numero uno. So keep that devil within at bay. Here's how you do it. Here's what I'm talking about. Here's how to keep the devil within at bay. Stay grounded with your spiritual values and your attachment to God. Notify the newsmakers of your opinions. Talk to your politicians and express your viewpoints. Because the people, mostly women, who are in the government agencies, and you go to any state capital or to any county seat where the mayor sits, and go to the state capital where the governor sits, you'll see a vast majority of women. They've gone to college for this. They've gone to social services colleges for this. I know from being from Minneapolis. the College of Hubert Humphrey. I forget the formal name of it, but it's all about social services. How to recognize the human dilemma of those in need, the true understanding of the human struggle. When I was on an advisory council board for Dakota County, just south of Minneapolis and St. Paul, when I was doing my single parenting, some woman gave me this book and said, here's how and why women have a better understanding of the human struggle. I almost threw it at her, but I said, okay, Carolyn, I'll read this. And I did. It was most infuriating, but I read it because I'm an open-minded guy. But that's the message out there, you see. That's what they come to work with, and now they're all making $100,000 a year or more. So as you stand up for your rights and you get motivated, you attend the school board meetings, the city council meetings, and stand up for your right, and above all, you vote. You vote. You get involved. You make your calls. You let your opinion be heard. You see? Because the majority of those that are calling in are those who are being paid to do it, while you are working hard to serve the well-being of your family, selling cars, selling insurance, building furniture, building homes, whatever you do for a living, being a doctor, a lawyer, dentist. You've got the majority of the population out there earning six figures working against your efforts. And then you got the Jew press slanting the news, telling you who to love, who not to love, and, how to feel toward your neighbor. You're outnumbered. So you got to make the calls. And you got to vote. And happy Juneteenth. That's coming up around the bend. Isn't that about the most preposterous, hypocritical federal holiday that you can absolutely imagine? Black people have historically for years really bombarded Hollywood and newspapers and everything, TV, for making blacks look stereotypically criminal and stupid. But yet now they come and embrace a frickin' holiday called Juneteenth. What's the day? 18th, Juneteenth. Some goddamn black guy in off the Bay of Texas in 1862 heard that President what's that island out there south of Texas? Galveston. They heard 3 years later that Lincoln had passed the Emancipation Proclamation. So they were all yippee yippee saying, oh, well, we're free, we're free. You see, and what's the date today so we can commemorate? Well, I know it's June 17th, Juneteenth, you see. Black people really seriously ought to be embarrassed by that, folks. Why don't we have an Emancipation Proclamation Day? I'll answer. Because they can't frickin' pronounce it, much less spell it. So let's do the stupid thing and go Juneteenth. You ought to be ashamed. Yeah, but you ought to be embarrassed. And there. And I'm telling you, when you're out there and you're fighting for your rights, it's an adventure. It's a big adventure, ladies and gentlemen. And it makes you feel good. It's a satisfying adventure. Especially when you win. And when you lose, you just put that loss to work so that you understand where you can, how you can win next time. Okay? So you keep it in mind. You do what Popeye the Sailor says. Your days will be brighter when you are a fighter like Popeye the Sailor Man. I said small boat. That's funny. Big boat in the harbor, ready to go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was that's really one of my finest shows. Might not be here for a couple of weeks. Sean may or may not be taken off, but if he hangs around, I'm back in a couple of weeks. Otherwise, it's going to be longer than that. But I've got a bunch of shows that you haven't seen before, so you go check them all out. All of them are gaining popularity. And I'm very, very happy to hear that. So as you make your challenges up to the top of the mountain, stay on the on-travel trail. Better memories, richer rewards, makes you feel better about yourself. What could be better?
Thanks for joining us. Visit Steve's Cottage again with Steve Horner.